To early Australian explorers, Central Australia was the great mystery, a land of great expectations and bitter disappointments. Again and again it shocked and defeated them with the power of its extremes. But to Aboriginal people, it had been home for uncounted thousands of years. And when a canny Scottish bushman finally found a way through to the Macdonnell Ranges in 1860, he drew heavily on Indigenous knowledge to find water and direction.
The Aranda people of this country have been here from time immemorial. However, in many ways the most significant figure about whom we know is John McDowell Stuart, a European explorer from Scotland who came through in 1860 with only two men called Keckwick and Head. They had to find a way through the ranges to be able to be the first people, as they perceived it, to travel from south to north through Australia. And they found it by following the Finke River up to the Hugh River, and then Stuart wanted to go more directly, so he followed the Hugh River up as far as he could. He then named the Macdonnell Ranges after the Governor of South Australia.
Within 12 years of Stuart's passage through the ranges, Central Australia was occupied by new people and began to show the impact of new values and aspirations. First, in 1871, as the centre of the overland telegraph line linking Australia to Europe, and then from others who came in search of the opportunities that Stuart had glimpsed in his brief traverse of the country. Originally curious about the newcomers, Aboriginal people soon found their waterholes fouled by gigantic four-hoofed beasts they could never have imagined, and which they also soon regarded as a valuable food supply. Conflicts over cattle were numerous and deadly on both sides, but Aboriginal people had the force of the white man's law working against them. In the far west of the Macdonnell Ranges, Glen Helen Station was typical of the conflicts of the time.
Glen Helen was established 1878 as a pastoral property with a man called Alan Braden in charge, and he wanted to have the best relations he could with the local Western Aranda Aborigines, but conflict was inevitable in the end because when you had the dry times in 1884 to 5, they started spearing the cattle, and he and the Aborigines definitely had some degree of conflict. He built a 60-yard, as it was, 50 metres, say 55 metres perimeter fence, and no Aborigines were allowed over that into the property area without his permission. So that's a sense of the conflict tension that was existing at that time.
Meanwhile, the major human settlement in the West Macdonnells was a Lutheran mission called Hermannsburg. To the Aranda, it offered a reliable source of food and some protection from overzealous police and pastoralists in conflicts over cattle, and for some, a new belief system. Run as a cattle station, Hermannsburg also helped establish a legitimate role for Aboriginal people in the cattle industry. After a couple of decades and many deaths from shootings and spearings, the new settlers and original inhabitants of the land began to reach an accommodation. But as time passed and the variability of the climate became painfully obvious, the Western Macdonnells came to be valued more for their scenery than for their ability to support cattle. The landscapes of an Aboriginal painter from Hermannsburg called Albert Namatjira attracted worldwide attention and enhanced the growing mystique of the centre, once regarded by many as the Dead Heart. After pioneer developments at Palm Valley and Serpentine Chalet, Glen Helen became a tourist chalet as operators built rough roads into the remote country. By 2005, the Northern Territory government had recognised the Aranda people as the traditional owners of the West Macdonnells National Park.